Welcome to TIA Talks. My name is Jason, and today I've got a very special topic that is close to my heart, and I think close to these guys' hearts. Claims. We are talking claims, and not the boring old car and home insurance claims, but we're actually going to delve a little bit deeper into what makes our industry tick, which is actually the sorting out of claims and finding solutions for them. So instead of product pricing and innovation, let's talk the boring claims. Welcome, boys and girls. I'll start with Deidre. Deidre, this is your first time on TIA Talks. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Yeah, who are you? And please, I think some people will recognize you because you were the favorite of, you were the only one that I voted for in the season that Chris won. And Chris is our other guest, and we've got Wangel over here. Wayne. I call him Wangel because he's my angel. So that's happened before. As you know, we've built relationships over the years just with TIA, and I love this because it's not just networking. It's really building good relationships in the industry. So I really do appreciate your time, guys. But Deidre, back to you. What do you do in the industry? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Jason. Like you've mentioned, I'm no stranger to the industry. I have 15 years experience in this lovely short-term insurance industry. Currently working at Santam Insurance as a team manager in the claims space. So love everything insurance, love everything claims. And yeah, that's me.
Are you at Santam?
I am.
Sure. Why have we not ever dealt with each other?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm going to speak to my consultant, I think. Wayne, welcome. You give us a different perspective on claims. You're a broker. Maybe tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I've been a broker for the past 20 years now.
20 years?
20 years, the 1st of March.
He's a bit of a bully, eh?
Was my 20-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Insurance is the only thing I've ever done. And I mean, as a broker, you get to deal with claims all the time. You have to be hands-on with it. So I think that's where my interest peaked in it. And since there, it's just grown. And when we got together with these guys, we sort of make magic happen when it comes to claims conversation. So,
well, we'll get to that because there is a claims conversation that you guys have put together, which is an industry changer, industry leader. In my opinion, it's the only one that I've seen out there. So we'll get to the claims forum, which you all started together. But Chris, you're the big shot now. Well, I don't know. You've had quite a career, so I don't know. Maybe introduce yourself, Chris. So, winner of TIA, and probably one of my favorite winners. No offense to all the other guys, but Chris is cool. So, Chris.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah.
I used to handle claims and worked in various capacities within the claims space, and I stepped away to do reinsurance. And now I handle general legal, reinsurance, and partners at I2.
Okay, sure. Yeah. And they're doing a lot at I2.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why they got you in.
Yeah.
I mean, the partnerships is a big thing there.
It is.
New products, new innovations. I've seen a lot of stuff come from I2. So well done. We're not here to talk about your insurers though. Yeah. Although we could talk as much as we want, Wayne, about all the insurers that we deal with. But I wanted to kind of understand your role in claims because I think some people have an understanding of a claim being you phone the guy, this is what I do, and then they get it sorted out in 24 hours. And that's not the reality of probably 90% of claims. Yeah. A cell phone claim or a laptop claim can be sorted out quite quickly depending on the circumstances. But I know we deal with a lot of complex things. So maybe in your role, what do you actually do in the claims space? So I'll start with Wayne because I think consumers kind of have an idea of what a broker does now. We've chatted about it quite a lot on the show. But Wayne, your role as a broker when it comes to claims, what is the most important thing that you kind of deal with or the role that you actually play with the client? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. The first thing is facilitation. You have to be the go-between between the client and the process, the insurer. The process, you've seen it, and you just manage expectations and facilitate, look after your client. That's what it sums up to. But in its, and you know well that like in its entirety, it's a very complex role because it differs, and there's a lot of things you need to do at different stages. Especially if you're a broker that doesn't have a binder facility and you are reliant on insurer claims handlers such as Deidre, that you need.
And that's 90% of like brokers out there.
That's so you are very, reliant on relationships, and a lot of what I do is build relationships with people.
That can help you.
Yeah, exactly. So you get your contact person on the inside, and you say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And it just becomes like sorting out of issues. That's it all. It's as I said, it's hard to describe, but I've said to people, like, I think I'm a professional. I just fix stuff. I don't know what it is, but if it's broken, it comes to you and you fix it, and you get better at it over years. And that's it all. But it's taking the client's hand, empathy, sympathy, the ways, and managing the process, facilitating that. I would sum it up as that.
Yeah, I think we the first responders to a claim. Other than the guys that are insured directly, you've highlighted basically we're first responders. They call us when there's an issue, and we have to try and sort it out in the best way possible. I think not only that, we help prepare the claim. So some of the time, guys, clients don't actually know how to kind of put a claim together and not sure what information to put in there or not. Sometimes it can, or most of the time, that information can affect your claim. Yes. And I think that's one of the roles of a broker is to actually intermediate that process and make sure that the claim is prepared accordingly so that you guys could pay the claim, and I think a lot of the back and forth gets removed then from that point on, if we've gotten all our ducks in a row prior to that. That brings me to the next kind of step, and that's you, Deidre, because once we've dealt with the first response, we've dealt with the trauma, we've dealt with the towing people on the side of the road and all of that stuff, we then pass it over. It's not even that exciting, okay? It's stressful. You know how many times, I'll ask you, actually, Wayne, I'll ask you, how many times do you get called after hours in a month to sort out an accident or something like that?
When I was younger, it was a lot. Now I've set up people to help.
Okay, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah.
But
he's a big shot too now. Okay, he's a big shot too.
Stop it now. It used to be a lot. You would get, and specifically if you're into certain types of claims like trucking and all of that, it's a continuous call. But I would say on a monthly basis, I personally get about 12 calls after hours, more or less. Sure. That you have to respond, and then you say you have to build those relationships with the roadside guys as well. So that becomes tedious. I've been on accident scenes as well, where these guys, where they want to tow the vehicle, you say no, you've got your own preferred supplier. You see how it affects the scenario, the client's life becomes in danger. It's not a fun, it's not exciting at all. It's very, very like stressful. On a knife's edge sometimes.
It is quite stressful. I think my biggest headache, I would say, or the reason why I don't sleep is not because the client's not covered. It's actually like what could happen now as I'm putting my feet up on the couch or something, So that's I completely understand. Deidre, you kind of move into the space where now we actually deal with you internally. So once the claim leaves our office and the clients think that they are going to get sorted out now, what happens in your office?
I think it's even more exciting thereafter. So I think just to go back to your point, Jason, of what we do, and I think we change people's lives. And that's the reason why people take insurance. They want to make sure that in their time of need, we are there. And I think that's the reason why we're there to facilitate the process. And, sometimes it's tough working with the brokers because we understand what you have to provide as a policy, and then we need to deliver on that. So it can be interesting, but I always say, as long as you have your empathy, you have sympathy, and you put the client first, then everything should be okay, provided that the brokers are happy.
Yeah. I mean, once it comes into your office as well, you've got all the suppliers out there that you need to deal with. There's investigators that get appointed. Yes. There's fraud stuff that happens behind the scenes that we don't even know. Yeah. We think it's just a normal claim, and all of a sudden there's an investigator on the claim. There's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes, Deidre. Do you organize all of that as the claim happens? How does that work?
So it's actually a journey that you take the client through, Jason. And yes, we have to make sure that we get the right people appointed. Of course, taking into account, we have turnaround times, we have service level agreements.
Which people forget.
Yeah. And also sometimes things also fall through the cracks because we do have certain brokers that would have preferred suppliers or preferred partners they would like to work with, and just to get them to understand. But throughout the touch points, we work through that process. We make sure that the claim moves through the different value chains to where it needs to go, and eventually for us to be able to settle the claim.
Sure. And Chris, I think I'm going to try and fit you into this.
Yeah.
Because you'll see all the stats
Yes. Yeah.
from all the claims that have happened,
yeah.
right? And then from that point, you guys will then look at rating, look at everything going forward, I guess, because reinsurance will want to know what is happening here and will affect and how it will affect their book. So maybe explain that, because you can hear I'm trying to explain it.
Yeah.
But
So I'm gonna, because I was in claims for a large part of my career. So this is something that's really, really, close to my heart as well.
okay.
And the way I see claims, and I'm gonna answer your first question, is that it is a shop window to the insurance company because, and I think it was Simon who actually said this to me a long time ago, and he was quoting someone else. And he said that an insurance policy is just a piece of paper until a claim happens, right? And so my philosophy when it has come down to claims is always do the right thing. So as a claim specialist, you have all of these tensions. You have the broker on one side, you have the client, so the customer, you have the internal tensions as well. And so you're sitting there as a claim specialist and you sort of have to manage all of those tensions whilst keeping everyone happy.
During a stressful, traumatic...
It is a very stressful job, especially if you're working in a high volume place or high severity or complex sort of environment. And it becomes quite taxing on the claim specialist. I've seen it happen. I've experienced it myself. And it's, the only way I think that claim specialists are able to do what they do is because they seek support from each other. They create relationships with their brokers, at least they're supposed to get support from there, so that the broker can manage the client. And they seek support from leadership. And so you have a strong leadership base, you have a awesome culture, and you have good relationship management. You're going to be the ideal situation. You'll be a successful claim specialist. And I think to a certain extent, that's what helped me during my career when I was handling claims. And as you move up, you find that the tensions become even stronger because you're then managing the commercial realities of the cost of claim versus the broker and client's expectation that the claim is going to be resolved in 3 hours.
Yeah.
Which has happened before, but it's not something that can sustainably happen. Now, when it comes to reinsurers, in my time working in the reinsurance space, the data is king, right? And so, number one, your data needs to be 100% proper. And so there's a lot of data governance. And that's another tension that claim specialists have to sort of manage, right?
Yeah, my claims team is always doing reporting.
Yes.
Reporting.
It's a high
I don't even know what it
reporting
is. I just
environment.
leave it to the claims manager and she says, I've sent my reports. And I say, well done.
Yeah. And reinsurers want to see what is your philosophy around claims? How are you handling those claims? Are you, giving too many gestures of goodwill? That also impacts your reinsurance arrangements and decisions going forward. So you're right. It's just to my mind and from what I've seen, a lot of emphasis is placed on just having oversight for what you're doing in the claim space. So where are particular claims in their life cycle or development period? Have those all been resolved? If so, what were they resolved at? If not, what's taking so long, and have you reserved accordingly? And determining which treaty year it's going to sit in. I think reinsurers are most interested in the underwriting data.
Yeah.
And I think that's where claims also has a lot of value. Because the data that you use for the reinsurers, you can use for your regional managers, so they can understand what the claims trends are in their particular areas. And I can go on and on and on. Yeah.
No, it's technical.
Yeah.
I think from this conversation, I think the viewers will see that claims is not just phoning your broker or phoning your insurer and sorting it out. There's a whole department, a whole business behind the business. In my opinion, I've seen it. There's call centers, there's agents, there's suppliers, like you mentioned, Deidre. Something that did, yes, Chris.
I was going to say, there's also whole people.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the time it's easy to forget that there's an individual there that has a whole lived experience, and they bring that to the office. And I don't think, the whole adage where you must leave your problems at home or the office door, I don't think that applies anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, these are whole people who are coming here who are accepting or getting loaded on the trauma of the claim, depending on what type of claim it is, and depending on what level it is. and having to manage all of that. So we mustn't forget the people.
Yeah. I think it is emotionally taxing.
Yeah.
I think for the people that are
Absolutely.
working in the claims, I can 100% see it.
Yeah.
I want to play devil's advocate because we've put the policy in place. We've made sure that it's there for them to claim. So I'm going to move away from how the people at the insurer feel.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the client because I deal with a lot of unhappy clients, a lot of happy clients, a lot of clients that will send a compliment after a claim has been sorted, and some clients will not even say anything after their claim's been sorted because they expect it. The term that's used often, or the saying that's used often in the industry, is that the insurers don't want to pay, and they don't want to actually sort out your claim or whatever. I hear that quite often. They're like, why is the insurer not wanting to pay? And I think there's a few things that we need to probably just break down a little bit, because I find that on the one side, there's a responsibility from the broker. There is a responsibility from the insurer, but there's also a responsibility from the client. It's a financial services product, and you need to know what you're purchasing.
Yeah.
And why you're purchasing and how it works. So that is our job, to explain that to the client. But then it comes to the claims and they say no, but the insurer doesn't want to pay because of a requirement that might have been missed or something of that. And maybe we did tell them, but how do you get around that? And what is the feeling at the insurer specifically? Who wants to tackle that one?
Deidre, you go first.
Yeah, I think it's, Jason, with the world we're living in now, it's so important to empower ourselves, and not necessarily as insurance professionals, not claims professionals, but as people. Education is key. And of course, as when you have a broker, it's always easy to say my broker will tell me, but it's important to take it upon yourself to understand what you're covered for. And I know sometimes we're also guilty of that, because I would also look at my stuff and I'll be like, oh my word, I'm not covered for this, but I'm doing insurance for so long. So it becomes difficult when you have the conversation, because unfortunately you have the conversation when it's
claim time.
Claim time,
Yeah.
and nobody wants to hear that they're not covered. But I also believe there's also certain ways of how you do stuff, So sometimes it's not how you or what you say, it's how you say it. And sometimes if you go down to the client's level, speak in a language they understand and try and explain to them, because unfortunately in some instances we just can't provide cover.
Yeah.
But it's just to get them to the level to understand, and perhaps go through the policy documents with them and show them, look, at this point you're not covered, but perhaps you can speak to your broker, or alternatively, if you don't have a broker, go out to the policy services department and add this cover that you need, and have the conversation with them and build that relationship with them, so that if they do need to claim in the future, they're also welcome to contact you to help. So I believe it's those networks. It's also people doing people, because the worst part also is to have AI coming in and throwing. So I'm all for AI, and I know that's Chris's close to Chris's heart, and I am for it as well. But I firmly believe, as claims professionals, people do people, especially in a moment where I want to speak to someone. I want someone on the other end of the line. So just to be present in that moment, speak to them and try and help them as best possible.
But I think it's important, you mentioned AI and that stuff. I think AI means that we can build stronger relationships.
Absolutely.
Because if you're sitting down with, Chris, I was watching your hands move when you were talking about reinsurance, and I could see a system in front of your face, and where the data is going and how it's moving across the different channels, and then what stage in the process. Because you said, oh no, it's now step 3, Deidre. So like there's different things there, and I'm pretty sure that the insurers, much like us, Wayne, we've got our systems. We know where we are in the claim. We know what the turnaround times are. So those things can be done by AI. An update can be done. It's not about phoning the client now and just giving them an update on their claim. That could happen automatically. It's actually to build the relationship on a human level, to find out the small little things in the claim, to see how we can push that claim through, or how to journey through it, I think. Chris, you wanted to add to something.
So I want to close the loop on what Deidre said, and I completely agree with Deidre around the how we handle rejections. I said it earlier on, we must always do the right thing as insurers. And that's not something that I only believe in, having worked in that environment. It's something certainly all insurers believe in, and that we want to pay the claim.
Let's maybe say that again. Insurers do want to pay the
They
claim.
do want to pay. That is our
Agreed.
purpose.
Yeah.
That's our job. That's what
Yes.
that is what the premium is there for.
Yeah.
Right.
You've paid us, so we're going to pay you.
Yeah. And so when a matter is up for rejection, there's a lot of rigor in that process. It isn't Deidre sitting in front of a computer decides
No.
I'm going to kick this claim
Yeah.
out. Ordinarily, what insurers have is a mechanism set up, so a technical committee of some sort, where it involves various people within the business. So I've been a part of committees like that have had the CEO all the way down to the policy administrator, all providing input into whether this claim needs to be or should be rejected or not. And everybody plays devil's advocate. Oh, but have you thought about this? Have you questioned that? And if all the questions cannot be answered in an appropriate way by the claim specialist who's putting the matter forward for rejection, then that matter is referred back for the claim specialist to have a look at it. So there's a lot of rigor around when a claim gets rejected. And, with brokers, and it comes down to the relationship, and I don't know if Wayne's had this experience before, but before we even refer a matter to a technical committee, we're meant to contact the broker or go visit the broker, depending on what type of claim it is, and explain to them that these are the challenges with this claim. If you can overcome these challenges, then great, we have no issues. But as it stands right now, those challenges can't be overcome, and we have there's no valid basis to pay the claim. What do you think? I don't know. Have you had that experience before?
Yes and no. We've had it in the past when there was a little bit more, let's call it transparency. I think due to volumes in claims, it's very difficult now. And if I can add, I don't know if you finished with your.
No, I want to preface it by saying that, look, in the high volume space, I understand that there's not going to be any direct contact, but there should be a call.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like in the really complex space, even just high value, sitting about 5 million, and so that's where you really start having these conversations. But the rigor remains throughout, regardless of value.
Even on the small claims.
Regardless of who it is, it could be some gigantic corporate versus, I don't want to say names, versus Wayne.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to add is, I think for insurance, for insurers, it's a double-edged sword, because they're in the business of claims, which the key word there would be business. What they can pay for the same thing, they're not going to pay more for because just you feel like it. So there is business and business skills and all of that involved in that, where I think they get it wrong. And that's what we love to do. We love to go back and forth about where do we see the issues. And I think where they get it wrong is they're building the claims processes around process and systems. And sometimes the systems doesn't cater for the real life or the supposed outcome. And we find that claims procedures change continuously just because systems are amended and they're adjusted, and now we need this instead of that. And I mean, that's a very frustrating thing for the client.
Hugely frustrating.
So when you deal with something and you expect a certain outcome, but now it's delayed because of,
now there's 2 more documents.
Let's call it another form, another
all of a
this,
sudden,
and another that. And I think in that area, I don't think insurers has the intention not to pay claims. I think they want to pay claims. I do think they want to pay it as cost effectively as they can, which is where the problem comes in, is because sometimes in that purview, they might lose what the main goal is. And it's not just about saving a claim, not just about saving, and it's about the knowledge of the staff, how they implement, what they look for, because some items are specialized. If you, for example, replace a PC, a built-up PC for a client, which you get a lot, personal computer, somebody games on it, and you just say, okay, I'll give you 15,000 for it, and then the client says, no, okay.
This has got a
but I paid
graphics
70
card.
for it. I just built it up.
I know it's a dull something, but it's not for
so there's technical knowledge lacking there, and then there's also, let's get it handled as quick as possibly so that we can move on to the next one. And then there's these small areas where they do struggle, I think, because of systems and because of cost efficiency. Sometimes it's that you spend a penny to save a pound. I don't know what do you call spend a
don't-
pound to
I know
save
what
a
you're
penny.
saying.
I know it in Afrikaans,
Ek is
but
ook 'n
it's-
boer, okay.
but it doesn't make any sense to me now.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it make sense.
Yeah.
You spend more money on the things you feel is important, but they're not as important as the smaller things you're neglecting.
Yes.
You know?
That was well put.
Yeah.
That was well put.
I have a way with words.
But when I wanted to ask you, do you think brokers are sometimes part of the problem?
Yes, 100%.
And
I
why?
think because I think so don't slaughter me for this.
No,
this
of course.
is my opinion.
This is a
And
safe space. Don't worry.
I'm
There's only
talking into
10,000
the
of you
broader- I'm talking into the broader, let's call it metaverse here that's
Yes,
listening
yes.
to this.
We're talking about the
and-
cuck
and
brokers out there.
specifically if you're a broker. I think brokers is very much a part of the problem. First and foremostly because we struggle with the emotional side of a claim. When you see a client sitting in front of you and their whole dress is wet from tears, it's hard to say no.
Yeah.
You-
Don't worry, we'll sort it out.
yeah, we'll do something for you. I'm just
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
ex gratia, ex
Yeah,
gratia.
ex gratia.
Ex gratia. It should,
And he's
should-
Which-
thinking of the insurer that I need to speak to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 But we're not going to speak ex gratia claims.
no, not
today.
at all.
Please.
Today.
Because there's like probably 2 that's happened in the last 10 years between all insurers
Wow.
nationwide.
Wow.
So there was a time, like literally about 7 years ago, I remember it, where that was like the last time it was an easy, quick ex gratia. No
Yeah.
in and out, no problem. We got this client for life. Now, I know it's very, very tough. So I'm not going to go into details of ex gratia. Google it, AI it. You can figure out what it is. But Wayne, continue.
Yeah. And then I think it's broker knowledge. I think our technical knowledge is not where it's supposed to be. I think we're sitting with not just the broker issue, but the industry-wide issue of skills transference. We see it regularly that if you go to any sort of function, let's call it a big insurer, you will see a certain age. I always used to joke and say, when I went to these functions, I'm the youngest person
me
there.
too, yeah.
You know what's crazy?
Yeah.
I'm still the youngest
Youngest,
person.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
This is
It's actually scary,
This is
eh?
20 years later.
Yeah.
This is 20 years on from there. And then
So
what
there's an opportunity for young brokers out there, just by the way.
but it's a tough environment. Young brokers stepping into, and that's a different conversation on its own. But the transference of skills is a bit of an issue. Most of the brokers die with their knowledge, with the knowledge with them, the relationships, all of that. And people phase in and out of insurance companies. We see that a lot. People come, people go. So what you knew 10 years ago is definitely not going to help you today. And if you thought you knew a process, it's not going to help you today. But I do think that our skills are lacking. I'll be honest with you. I think our knowledge and I think our relationship management skills to the point of pay this or is becoming, the insurers are fed up with it.
Yeah.
They want to get to the point where let's talk about why we should pay this claim and let's take hands around it. And I get a lot of flack for this specifically from my broker network about that, but I do feel that they are missing the point here that it is still a relationship and a conversation. And sometimes we lack the knowledge to argue the point, so we play the emotional game or the threatening game.
Or we made a mistake.
Yeah.
You know.
There's a larger industry conversation, and it's so, like Wayne says, we like to discuss these things because it's not really brokers. It's something that I've been grappling with, because in my current role and even my previous role, I would see claims decisions or determinations made by claims specialists and wonder what led to that, and try and unpack, is it a training issue? Is it because it was an incorrect decision, right? Let's start there. And then you have to work your way back to understand, okay, is this something new? This is the first time this person is dealing with this type of situation. And have we sufficiently resourced that person to deal with this sort of situation? And it's only by having those questions as a leader within a claims environment sort of team, do you then start to pick out what are the gaps that you should be plugging. And very often, and I'll always default to this, very often, most of the issues that we have in claims can be resolved with a simple conversation, whether in person or whether over the phone, right? And secondly, most issues can be resolved by asking the right questions. And so if you're sitting as a claim specialist and you're absolutely bewildered by the claim that's sitting in front of you, it takes away nothing if you ask someone for help, either senior or your colleagues. And also, and also, but the third thing is then having conversations around how should claims actually be handled. And the reason why I say this is that everything that I've learned about claims was having conversations with my manager, just constantly asking her questions at that time.
Experience, man.
Right? And secondly, from a little quadrant that I used to sit with, so there were 4 of us, and we used to just talk about these claims at length, and try and figure out what the solution was. No one would sit quietly and,
it's a proper debate.
Exactly.
It's like a little forum.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I mean by it's a wider industry conversation, because there are knowledge gaps throughout the industry in in varying degrees. And then the talent, the knowledge transfer, they aren't formal programs within organizations set up for that knowledge transfer to happen, because we're also focused on the commercial side of the business.
Yeah.
Like Wayne said, it is a business at the end of the day. We all want to make money, right? And so, but understanding that knowledge transfer, making sure that your staff component is sufficiently capacitated and resourced, is a step towards their profitability. But that's.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I do think that there are business cycles in insurance. I mean, I've been in, and this is just my opinion, but I've been in insurance for just over 10 years now. I think it's 12 now or something. And I've seen the industry change from different major events, which would change, the wordings and stuff like that, the fires, the lockdowns, all of those things. But then it comes down to kind of the people in the industry, and they also move around. So there's there's a little like a cycle of people moving to different insurers. So the industry stays small, actually.
Yes.
And we think that we filled the roles now left with great people, which I think they have been filled with great people. But I think my point is like there's almost like a top down trickle effect where there's a gap now sitting at the bottom or in the middle management, which actually needs to be solved.
Yes.
And we can't do anything. We can't actually become profitable in the next 10 years the way that the insurers want us to be profitable. I mean, we've seen your what is that premium thing that they tell us we have to get to? The premium sensitivity line, I don't know.
Like the threshold,
it's like it's like the minimum premium that
yeah.
we have to charge, or the client has to pay. And that wasn't a thing previously. It was like, but now it's industry wide. This is the premium, the lowest premium we can go for a VW Polo. And I think that's all product and stuff, but our people have been forgotten in these business cycles. And I really do think that we need to do something about it. Insurers need to step up and actually train their people, create succession planning in their business, and also growth again. Build opportunities within. I mean, you've moved around, Chris.
Yes, I'm one of those people who moves around.
Yeah. But I mean, like, if maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but if there were like 7 other opportunities at the insurer that you were with, maybe there would have been a different move for you.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe,
Chris, it's fine. We can move on. But out of all of this, the 3 people sitting with me all come from TIA. You guys all competed in the same year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct, yes.
Wayne, you competed in a couple.
I did the 2 fair.
Yeah. You did the initiation, and then you passed with flying colors. But from TIA, just like TIA Talks, there was an idea on the side somewhere. I spoke to Rianette, executive producer, and then I spoke to her, and we came up with TIA Talks, and we did it. And now you guys are sitting on this platform where we can talk about insurance and financial services. The 3 of you have done something pretty amazing. I've only seen it once ever, and I've seen it all over. So I'm going to ask Wayne, Joel, you launched something, you and the team from the TIA guys, launched something called the Claims Forum. What is the Claims Forum? Because I haven't watched an episode or listened to it yet. Okay. So I'm going to do that afterwards, maybe. I might watch my TIA Talks podcast first. But Wayne, what is the Claims Forum? And tell us about it.
Yeah, so the Claims Forum in itself, we would say, is the brainchild of Chris.
So Chris, you came up with that idea.
But it literally started around dinner conversations while we were all competing at because a lot of us were in claims and we had claims as our passion. So the founding members are all ex-TIA or TIA alumni.
Who are the
It's-
founding
it's-
members? Just the three of you, or are
No.
there more?
We have
No,
more.
there's more.
Who
No,
are
we
they?
were 6 when we started, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marissa that also competed in the year we
Yes.
did. JP Ellis
JP
that
Ellis,
competed, I
yeah.
think, the last year before the COVID,
Yeah.
the COVID episodes, and then we had 2 guys, both from Bright at that stage.
Wow.
One of them did try make it into the TIA,
Matthew.
Matt.
Matthew,
Yeah,
yeah.
so he got through to the elimination rounds.
Well done, Matt.
And
Still
then,
big.
and then one of our alumni members, Obed, who
Obed,
is whose current role is just taking up too much of his time. So that was the founding, let's call it, members, and it started around the idea of exactly what we spoke about a few minutes ago, about where do we see the gaps in claims and where do we see the gaps in the knowledge. And our target was always from the start the middle management and the entry level staff, where their knowledge base was and where we are struggling. And we had our conversation and said we need to sort of put our knowledge back into the industry as best we can and get to those people and share with them what we know. So we have very hard, open conversations about the reality of claims on both sides. That's why you would say we're quite honest and frank, but we are, because we come from different companies, different backgrounds, different roles. That's basically just where it started out. But it is a forum and it's a conversation around claims and the idea of educating, getting to the middle management to let's call it, to improve the standard of claims in the industry.
I love that. Is the claims forum something that anyone can be a part of or join? Or so how does it work? What is it? So I know it's a forum. What platforms is it on now? And kind of explain the...
how does it work?
Yeah, how does it work?
of it.
Yeah.
So we don't have an association of members as yet. And notice I say as yet. We've been around for 3 years. So that's something that we're really proud of. What we do is we arrange seminars, either in person or online, and we talk claims, everything claims. They're usually done in association or in partnership with attorneys, law firms, loss adjusters,
Love it.
or service providers of the industry. We talk about some pressing issues. The reason why we don't have an association as yet is because we're still trying to build that rigor amongst ourselves, and what does that look like for us, and how do we want that to like work and feel and look like,
And cost.
and cost. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, cost is a big thing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this is funded from
Yeah,
our personal side.
self-funded,
We're not sponsored. We do everything. It's. I think JP calls it our duty to society. Our
Yes.
Civic duty, yeah.
Civic
Civic
duty.
duty.
And so we spend our time. We meet every so often in the evenings, and we chat about the things that we want to do, how we're going to do it, who we're partnering with. We've done a lot of things with the IISA
Excellent.
as well, which is cool. And then Deidre is now leading us. I've taken a step back
Good.
because of studying.
Okay,
and what
Chris,
have you. Yeah.
enough from you. Deirdre, tell us about the Claims Forum. So you've taken over. Welcome, CEO of the Claims Forum.
CEO of the
Yeah.
Claims Forum.
Okay, talk to us, Chairman Lady.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned that you haven't heard any other claims institutions or associations, and that's the reason why we decided to do this. There's so much institutions and platforms available for other individuals, and there's nothing for claims.
Yeah.
And while you were speaking, there's so much misconceptions around claims, and I heard the broker speaking, and contrary to popular belief, we are there to settle claims. And the industry is so heavily regulated that it's so easy not to pay it, not to pay a claim,
Yeah.
because it's so many checkpoints, and there's a lot of people fighting for the client, to actually be paid,
Including the insurer.
including the insurer. And that's the reason why we're there as claims professionals, to say our industry is not about taking money and not giving back. We also want to give back.
Yeah.
But then it's twofold, because we also have people in the industry. I mean, we have people that deal with hectic accident scenes. But then where do they go?
Yeah.
Who do they speak to? And it's just about us creating awareness, and also just creating awareness for claims, because claims is like a grudge purchase.
Yeah.
And we want to steer away from people thinking of our industry. And also, we know the skills gap that we have. And I'm not sure if I can say, but we want to make insurance and claims sexy again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do it.
We
do
do.
it.
We
Deirdre.
do. We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think claims need to be that
Yes.
way.
Yeah. It does. So when I got into this conversation with Deidre, with Wayne, and the rest of the founding members about it, the genesis of this was really how I felt as a claim specialist, where you really do sometimes feel unsupported. And I'm not saying that I was working for an unsupportive environment, but I wish I wish a lot of people could have had the support that I had at that point in time, like the groups, right? And as I moved in the claim space in varying roles, I started to see that support is not available to everyone. Number one, people don't feel safe to ask questions. But number two, it's just simply not available, right? And so that's the genesis of the idea, is to empower, to elevate the claims environment. And, what better group of people to do it with? Because all of us have varying views. I mean, we've disagreed with each other on stage previously.
On numerous occasions.
On numerous occasions, because we have such varying views. And the idea behind a forum is just that. You are meant to have differing ideas. And we do it in an uncompetitive manner. So we're not talking about, trade secrets, how each company handles
It's just
claims.
how it should be.
How it should be.
Yeah.
What's the...
Or to us, what should it look
What
like?
are like the first principles or the principles that we should be following? Or the foundational principles,
So what does the claims forum stand for? What are the values that it would stand for as a claims person? Do you guys have that written down? Or Deidre?
Our values is to put people first. For us, we always forget people, and I'm sure you've heard it come across the room, is we always people. And yes, we have systems, we have processes, but there's people that need to be there to do it. And that's the most important thing for us, is people do people. And we hear you, we see you. And Chris mentioned something that also just reminded me, we have some sessions as well where we focus on mental health, of claim staff, which sometimes it can
cool. I like
be a taboo, because some people don't want to say they're not okay until they actually sit and reflect. And those things they can fester. And, those are the platforms that we have to offer to people to say, this is what is available to you. So that's what we stand for. And we continuously growing. We also ask for feedback. We have newsletter articles that we also give out for the industry to read. So we look forward to your feedback after you've read some of our articles.
Yeah, I would love to join a little forum, actually. Not on the forum, just to be a part of the seminar. So add me to the list. We'll put on the link to the claims forum in the description below the video. I think I wanted to touch on just one last little thing there, because you mentioned people. And we've all been affected by claims. Personally, our friends, our family, it could be a medical aid claim, which actually I want to touch on the medical aid claim quickly, because medical aid claims, sometimes we forget that, we spoke about technology, AI, processes, all this stuff. I find the most issues come through the medical side when I do my medical claims, because it's all automated and there's no people behind it. And then the claim gets paid and the client complains. And then when I look at the claim, it's the wrong code or something, because the system or the person behind the scenes didn't understand where to put this claim. And when I deal with the claim myself, then it starts to kind of get fixed and we pay the medical claim. There's no shortfall anymore or something. So just a side note for the consumers, medical claims, check them, make sure they're there, because I know you don't have a broker looking after that most of the time. But we deal with a lot of people, and I've just found that we've spoken about trauma, we've spoken about the emotional capacity of our claims clerk or claims professional, which I love that word, because I don't even know why clerk is pronounced clerk. It's spelled clerk. But anyway, so anyway, claims professional. But I wanted to kind of touch on one last thing. If you could kind of position yourself in a... Let me rephrase this. We've all dealt with claims, and I want to hear from you, your most personal journey with claims that has kind of brought you to this place now, because you are passionate about claims. There are not many people I come across that are passionate about claims. So Wayne, I want to ask you to start, but what spurred you to actually do this and to actually get invested with claims?
It would have to be the one claim that would always come up when you ask a question like this, the one that springs to mind. I think the year was 2011 or 2012. I had a client that had a house burglary while they were away during broad daylight. and they were quite traumatized when they got home. Within the alarm response time of about 8 minutes, these guys cleaned out their house.
Yeah.
So you know, a little bit of perspective. Think yourself 14 years ago, what a 400,000 rand claim looked like. It was a devastating claim. Today it's not so much, but back then for personal policy and a lot of their personal items were violated. So they went through tremendous trauma with this claim, and then because of the size of it back in the day, some of the insurers like to appoint merit assessors. They went by certain names, but a lot of them were ex-policemen and people that were there to look for anything lying under the, you know. What had happened is the assessor had their own personal issues. The client was pushing for the claim. I asked the question, and then I phoned the regional manager and I said, please, we need some assistance with this claim, yeah. And in person, the guy told me, listen, you need to chill on this claim. We're going to arrest your client for fraud. So those words shocked me to this day. And this guy was, I think, regional manager of Gauteng claims at a big insurer. A few days after that, they phoned the client, these same merit assessors, and they had a sort of an interview with him, very much in a room like this, but with the one-way glass or the two-way mirror, you know, that type of thing. And they basically had an interrogation with him, and he came to my office that day, and he sat in front of me, and I saw a grown man crying because of the trauma he went through, because of the questions that was asked of him. And he kept on saying, but he was rattled. His wife came and saw me a little bit later. They said, I wouldn't understand, what does this mean? They didn't really understand the situation. And that's when my mentor, my boss at the time, we started fighting the claim. And the one thing you would find with an insurance company, with an insurer, is that it's very hard to change their opinion once they've made up their mind. So insurer backs their people, which is what they should do, sometimes to a fault. And in this case, it was to a fault. The assessor had made assumptions and had reverse engineered some of the claim facts. And it took us about 3 months. We had that interview typed up. Yeah. There's a fancy word for it, but I can't think of it now. We had all of that done.
You always look at me for the fancy words. I don't know them.
And we,
transcribed.
We
transcribed it.
Beautiful.
I gave you that word.
Yeah, we transcribed it. We did all of that, and we fought this claim to the point where not only it was reversed, but they came to apologize to the client in person. Wow. The client didn't want to see them because of the trauma.
Of course.
But that, for me, that was a win for the good guys. Because it was, and that's when I understood one thing about claims. We are dealing with people, and people make mistakes. Yeah. And people can get it wrong, and we need to always be mindful of that, specifically when you want to go the point, or when you're going to want to go to the route, or go the route of pointing fingers or saying, I think we should repudiate this claim because this like this. We had a session once where someone asked a question like, as an assessor or as a service provider or a loss adjuster or whatever, your opinion should not matter. And it was a formal question asked to us, and I said, well, that's interesting. Your opinion should not matter, yet an assessor can come to my client's house and says, well, this client would never have had a big TV like this. Have you seen how dirty his house is? Oh, wow. And you've seen this.
Yes,
you've seen this. So opinions do matter.
Yeah.
And we need to fight for the little guy. And that's what we did there. And that day we felt like heroes. And ever since then, this is not the last time this sort of thing has happened. It happened again and again and again. But going back to that claim, that was one where I truly felt the calling in my work.
Yeah, well done. I love that word, calling. And I think we'll call it there. I know, Deidre, you've probably got a great story as to why you in claims. Do you actually? Do you want to go for it? Yes,
I think it is a calling, you know. Yeah. And, you know, in my previous life, at my previous company I worked at, it was actually a query I got for one of the other consultants that was dealing with the claim. And the client said, yes, my claim is settled. I've got everything I need, but no one's checked on me. Oh, and that really hit home to me to say, well, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, are you fine?
We're not just paying people. And this client had a hectic incident with the son was in an accident and things weren't too good. And that made me realize that we're actually dealing with somebody on the other side of the line. Yeah. And we're there to make a difference. And that changed my way of how I see things. it made me want to go the extra mile and help and do whatever I can to make that person feel satisfied when they're done. Do we always get that right? Not always, but can we try?
Yeah.
And I think that's why we're here, to also change how claims professionals treat clients. Because sometimes it becomes so mundane and so routine that we become so robotic, we forget that there's still some empathy we need to display. And for me, that's why I'm still so passionate today, so many years later. And I think that's why I've come back to claims. I left for a while and I've come back because I'm a claims person. And for me, it'll always be at my heart to make sure. And for now, every interaction I have, I always check up to make sure, are you okay? Because that moment has always lived with me.
Deidre, that is why I voted for you as my favorite contestant
Thank you, Jason.
in your season. I think we'll close it there, guys. I really want to say thank you for your time and for joining me today. I think this was an insightful conversation around claims and one of the more exciting conversations around claims. So thank you very much. I think we've realized that claims isn't about a process, and it is actually the full product that we're actually purchasing from the insurer. And we've realized that it's all about the people. So thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Cool.